So today is Youth Sunday, and I thought, what a better way to start off Youth Sunday than having some youth up here. So see, this is some of our guys here at the youth group. By the way, I'm the youth pastor here, if you haven't figured that out already. But my name is Phillip. I'm the youth pastor, and so I wanted to have some of these guys come up and read some scriptures to you guys. So these scriptures might seem a little bit scattered, but they'll all make sense as we get further along into today. All right.
Genesis 1:27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them.
Genesis 3:1-5. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die." "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil."
John 14:6-7. Jesus answered, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him."
John 18:37-38. "You are the king then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." "What is the truth?" retorted Pilate. With this, he went out again to the Jews gathered there and said, "I find no basis for a charge against him."
2 Timothy 3:7. Always learn but never able to come to a knowledge of the truth.
All right. Thanks, guys. Hey, by the way, today's Thad's birthday, so give him a hard time today. Happy birthday, Thad. So young adults, kids, students, punks, as I like to call them, whatever you want to call them, they are the youth of this generation. And I'm the youth pastor here. My name's Phillip. Over the past 2 decades, I've been working with youth, and I know I don't look that old, but it has been about 20 years, which is crazy to think about. But, I can tell you just in the last 20 years, being a teenager looks a lot different than what it did even just 20 years ago, and the things that they struggle with are maybe even a little bit different. And today, that's what I wanted to talk to you all about, talk to the church about, with some of these big issues that our teenagers are facing, that young people are facing. And I want to share with you just what they're going on, what's going on in their lives. Maybe some of you guys have teenagers. Maybe some of you have younger kids that are going to be teenagers soon or in the next couple years. Maybe some of you have already parented teenagers, and maybe they're having grandkids now that are going to be teenagers soon. But in some way, we all run into the youth kids, and we all have impact on them. And I know it's hard, as we get older, and I know I'm not that old yet, but as we get older, it gets harder and harder to see eye to eye with our kids, right? With the youth, things change, the world changes. What we went through as a kid is different than what they're going through today. But I do want to tell you by starting out that, what kids go through today, the basic struggles that they go through really aren't any different than what all of us have gone through, what has happened throughout history. But I can tell you, things like, popularity, right? Dealing with bullies, fitting in, living up to expectations. Maybe it's parental expectations, maybe it's societal expectations. But I can tell you that even though the struggles might look the same and kind of be the same, the way in which the kids today face those struggles is far different than maybe what it's only been 20 years ago. And you might say, well, what's the difference? And I believe that it's kind of these two things that cover the difference. And it's the culture that we live in and the technology that has come about. I mean, for goodness sakes, culture and technology has changed so much just in the last 20 years. And in fact, this year, is going to be my 20th high school reunion. That's weird for me. I know some of you guys are like, wait till you get to 50. But for me, 20 is like, wow, I'm starting to get a little old. I'm starting to see more gray hairs on my head. But, even just in the last 20 years, I mean, if we look at just technology alone, I mean, how much it's changed. I remember, so when I was in high school, my senior year, that's kind of like when cell phones started coming out. They were out before then, but it was never really like a consumer thing. It was those giant blocks that you guys all had, driving thinking you're all cool with your giant block cell phone. But no, they started coming out with the little cell phones back when I was in high school, and I didn't actually get one until after high school. But those were so awesome, and we look back on those and we laugh because really texting was terrible on those old things. Taking a picture, everybody takes pictures now on their phone, like you would take a picture on those old cell phones, and first of all, the screen was tiny, and second of all, it was so blurry you couldn't even tell what you were taking a picture of after you looked at it. And in fact, I was looking through our basement the other day, and I'd found this old calculator. You guys even remember what calculators are, right? So we had back in when I was in high school, like it might have even been a requirement. I don't remember, but we had to get like these Texas Instrument calculators, and they were like $100. And they were the nice ones, right? They had all the equations on there. You can just type in what the square root was, all these different mathematical things. And it was awesome. It's like, man, this thing can do so much. And I ran across this thing, and I was about ready to throw it away. And my wife was like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, it's a calculator. Who's going to use this anymore? And she was like, well, it was like $100. And so I just slowly put it in the trash can. Because it's like, we all have cell phones nowadays. We have Siri. We have Alexa to ask. All those different things. You can get the square root of whatever number you want in 2 seconds if you just say, hey, Alexa, what's the square root of 84? Anybody know that? I have no idea. I'm not that good. I'm the same way. But technology has just changed so much in the last 20 years. But our kids today are growing up in a new world, this world of technology, one that's driven by media, technology, and to be honest, this false sense of reality. You guys remember when reality TV started coming out? I remember that pretty clearly. The ones I started watching were on MTV. I don't even know if MTV is still around, but this thing called Real World, right, came out on MTV, and you got to watch all these people having all this drama and fighting, and it was just so interesting because you're like, is this real life? Like, this is crazy. People are punching each other, getting mad at each other. This is awesome. And then you come to find out it's all fake. There is no such thing as reality TV. In fact, there's a couple that I had become friends with. They started coming here, 3-4 years ago, something like that. In fact, they're sitting right over there, Miss Andrew, or Mr. Andrew, Miss Lisa over there. So you guys can get, I'm going to have them all talk to you afterwards. So they were on the show. You guys remember House Hunters? They were on the show House Hunters. And when they came in, they were so excited that they were on that show, which is awesome. And so they told us all about it. And so if you guys don't know what the, House Hunters is, it's basically where you're like moving cities, and it's this TV show that kind of follows you along. And you pick out of like these 3 houses. They give you, this realtor shows you these 3 houses, but they're never really all what you want. So you end up having to pick one, and they try and, set all this drama in there. And at the end of the show, you pick a house and it shows them, moving in. Well, when they shared their story with me of how the actual show goes, I'll tell you what, it's not real. Now, plug your ears. If you still watch that show, plug your ears if you don't want to know how it actually goes, because I'm about to tell you, and it might ruin this show for you. So here's what they told me. Here's how it actually goes. Before the crew even comes out to film you, you have to have already bought a house. So while you are searching for this new house, out of these 3 homes, you already own one of them, or at least have to be under contract with one of them. And so these other 2 houses are just kind of like throwaway houses that you're not ever going to buy anyway because you already bought one. So this is the reality of reality TV that we see nowadays, right? And really, this is just a false sense of reality, a false sense of truth. And this is what our young people today are facing. Fake truth. And really, there is no such thing as fake truth, right? It's really just known as a lie, right? Our kids are growing up in this culture of lies driven by technology, driven by media. And before you say, whoa, wait a minute, Phillip, I think you might be over-exaggerating a little bit here. A culture of lies, come on, really? Well, just hear me out today if you think that. I want to kind of show you what I'm talking about and say some stats, and maybe you might just think I'm not over-exaggerating by the end of this. But in every generation since time began, before maybe about the last 20, 30 years, maybe a little bit longer, there's always been this idea of truth, right? There's been something of an objective truth out there outside of ourselves that governs this sense of maybe right and wrong, maybe what's real, what's not real, what we hold to be true. Now, of course, there will always be exceptions to this rule, and we've seen that throughout history. But for the most part, right, cultures, peoples, nations, they followed this truth, some standard that they live by. Maybe that truth was in God, maybe the God of the Bible that we follow. Maybe it was in one of the little g gods, right? Maybe it was like Buddha, maybe it was Allah. All the, the Greek gods, the ton of Greek gods that were out there. Maybe it was in rational thinking. Maybe it was in philosophy. Maybe it was in science or math. But I want to show you today maybe what's kind of all changed. And so I want to give you guys a couple stats about our teenagers, about our young people today. And they'll be up here on the screen as well. So just over 50% of the general population think that truth today is left up to the individual, that it is subjective, right? Meaning it's relative to you. So your truth is not my truth is not your truth. It's different for everybody. 61% of young adults, that's 13 to 25-year-olds, believe that if what you believe hurts or offends someone, then it is wrong to believe in that. So for example, like if I believe that abortion is wrong, but that offends somebody else out there, maybe a woman who, wants the right to be able to have an abortion, then I am wrong. I must not think that way because that my truth offends somebody. So in young people under the age of 21, get this, only 6% believe that objective truth exists. That means only 6% of our young people believe that there is an objective truth, some higher truth out there that governs everyone. So in turn, of course, that means 94% of students believe that truth is left up to the individual. That your truth is not my truth is not your truth. And this stat actually blew my mind. Just under 50% of church-going people believe that truth is left up to the individual. So if these stats are accurate, then half of this church right now believe that truth doesn't really exist, or at least one truth doesn't really exist for everybody. And maybe you've never thought about it. Maybe you might actually believe that, but you've just never thought about it. And that's okay. If you're here today and that's how you think, I'm glad that you're here. And I hope that you just continue to listen because I want to tell you why I believe that the Bible tells us something different, that there actually is a truth out there. And so here's a few more stats about our young people. And some of these, before I say these, some of these might be a little bit hard to hear, especially if you've gone through some of these personally. But suicide is the second leading cause of death in the United States for people 15 to 24. 20% of high school students have reported serious suicidal thoughts, and 9% have actually attempted suicide. 14.4% of youth ages 12 to 17 deal with major depressive episodes. That's not, just regular depression. These are major episodes. And 50% of young people struggle regularly with anxiety and depression. And then 1 in 5 teens identify as LGBTQ. See, our students today are confused, they're anxious, they're looking for answers about who they are, where they fit in this world, where they belong. Just like we all did. I don't think this isn't something new. We have all gone through this as young people, as adults, at different ages, but we've all gone through this question of where do I fit in? Where do I belong in this world? So what has changed? Why are our kids depressed? Why are they contemplating suicide? Why are they turning to changing genders or spending countless hours on YouTube, TikTok, all these different things? And this one always gets me. So I grew up with video games. Rather than playing video games, today kids will watch videos of somebody else playing video games. I don't get that. That one blows my mind. Anyways. So where has it all changed? Well, listen to this stat, and I think this is a big factor here. For the first time in U.S. history, the majority of our country no longer affiliates themselves with Christianity or with God. So we are living in what they call a post-Christian country. That's where the majority of our country doesn't believe. And this stat is even less for young people. And listen to this one. 75% of young people struggle with their meaning of existence, with what their purpose is in life. And again, I think we've all had to answer or ask ourselves this question before. Like, what is it all about? What is life about? And maybe the answer you got might be different than what kids are getting today. In fact, even for me 20 years ago, that answer looked a lot different. So here's maybe the answer they're getting. If one of them asks, what is the purpose and meaning of life? Here might be the answer they get from the world. The answer to life is that you were just a random accident that came into being, no different than any other animal. In fact, we're just evolved animals, so just enjoy life. You do you, bro. Do some good, recycle, plant a tree, live your life, have some fun, because that's all there is. Get married, don't get married. If you don't like your spouse anymore, just get a different one. If you get pregnant, don't want a kid, and have an abortion. If you don't like your gender and want to change, have a surgery, take some pills. The truth is up to you. Don't let anyone else tell you what you can or cannot do. And I know today this might sound a little bit legalistic, might sound a little condescending, maybe like I'm just trying to thump the Bible over your head. But here's what it comes down to. As a youth pastor, as seeing this, I am tired of seeing our young people lost in a world where they have so much information at their fingertips, so many resources that we have nowadays. We claim to be the most connected we have ever been in all of history, yet our students are the loneliest that they have ever been. In fact, listen to this stat. Almost half of young people surveyed said that they feel lonely most of the time and that they have no one to talk to. And you might think, oh, Phil, that's because of COVID. This was actually before COVID even hit. And COVID just made it worse. So our students are going on to YouTube, they're going on to Facebook, they're going on to TikTok, whatever other social media things are out there, to find these answers. They're talking with, their friends, they're talking with just random people that live out there. In fact, they're making these posts, and they may not actually be asking, hey, what's the meaning of life? But maybe they're asking these questions that are about it. And guess what happens? We're living in this post-Christian world where now thousands of people from around the world can answer that question for them and give who knows what answer. And most of the time they say it's just whatever you want it to be. The truth is inside of you, right? So it's no wonder why this next generation is falling over every whim of doctrine, every trend, every social media, or every social injustice, all these uprisings that we see, and then finding out it's all fake, it's all false, it's all lies, it's all house hunters, right? It's not real. And listen to this. Here's some of the biggest reasons why teenagers today are leaving the church. One of them is they have intellectual questions that they think don't line up with the Bible. They believe the Bible or God isn't fair. They ask, why do I hurt? If God exists, why doesn't he do anything about my hurt? So therefore, God must not exist. So what's the answer here? I think, us being in church, we're probably all going to know where this is going. But I believe that God is the answer. I believe that Jesus is the answer. I believe that the Bible is the answer. So let's go back, these students that read the verses earlier, let's go back to these verses and kind of put them into the context of what we're talking about. So this first one was John 18. In the context of this verse is Jesus is going before Pilate. He's about to be tried. They put the crown of thorns on Jesus' head and said, you're claiming to be king of the Jews. And that's when Pilate steps in and says, you are a king then, Pilate said. And listen to what Jesus says here. You say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. This is Jesus talking. And then, of course, Pilate says something I think that all the world says nowadays, right? What is truth? Truth doesn't exist. What are you talking about, this truth? Retorted Pilate. Well, let's go to John 14. Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. So what Jesus is saying here is, you have seen me. So therefore you have seen the Father, because, later on in this verse, it goes on to say that I and the Father are one. The Father and I are united as one. So if you have seen Jesus, you have seen the Father. So Jesus is saying here that I am the way, the truth, and the life. And if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Let's go to Genesis 1:27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. You see, this is the truth that people need to understand. That God created you in his image. You weren't just some accident that randomly came about over millions and millions of years. You were created by our loving Creator with a plan and with a purpose. The Bible even says that before you were formed in the womb, he knit you together. He thought of you. He put thought into who you are. He made you who you are for a reason. So to change who you are or to become somebody else is to distort the will of God on your life. He made you to be you. Genesis 3:1-5. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God has made. He said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from the tree of the garden? The woman said to the serpent, well, we can eat from the trees of the garden, but he said you can't eat from that one that's in the middle of the garden. And he said you must not touch it or you will die. And here's exactly what Satan does to so many of us today. He says, you will not certainly die. God didn't say that. That's just a lie. For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened. You'll be like God, knowing good and evil. God just wants you to stay dumb. But if you really want to be smart, then you won't believe in God. I've heard this a million times. We got to understand that Satan is out to deceive us. He's deceived our culture. Any chance that he gets, he wants to make you second guess God. Did God really say that? And even if God really did say that, he didn't mean it, because he doesn't want you to be smart. I've heard this so many times about Christianity, especially with, younger people. They say that, to believe in God means that you have to reject science. You have to reject thoughtful thinking. You have to reject knowledge. And maybe you've heard this one. Christianity is for people who can't think on their own. Or Christianity is a crutch in life. And I don't need a crutch. I'm strong enough. And this is how the world perceives God. But we know differently. And in fact, let's read this in 1 Corinthians 3. It says, do not deceive yourselves. If any of you think you are wise by the standards of this age, you should become fools, so that you may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight. Now, that's not to say that knowledge today is dumb, okay? There are so many awesome things that have come about through technology, through knowledge. We've led to medical breakthroughs. We have more insights into, the physics, the rules of nature and our bodies and how this all works. We can even predict weather. Well, maybe not in Colorado, I guess. They still got to work on that. listen to this. Paul writes this in 2 Timothy. He writes this about the coming at the end of the world. He says, this is how people are going to be. Always learning, 2 Timothy 3:7, always learning, but never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. I think that so accurately describes where we're at in our culture. We have so much knowledge out there at our fingertips. I mean, I am just blown away by what people come up with and the things that people make and how they make it. I'm just like, I just can't grasp some of these things. But it saddens me so much when I read that verse and know that this is the truth, that there's people out there that are always learning, but never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. And that's hard. That hurts, that there's so many people out there, so many smart people out there that don't understand what the actual truth is. So here's the call. Here's the action. Okay, here's where the rubber meets the road. Our students are asking these kind of questions. Okay, and they should be. But maybe you need to ask yourself this question today. And this is the one, if you're filling out an outline, this is the actual one blank that I have on there. But it's this question: what is truth? Maybe you've never asked yourself that question before. Maybe you've never really even thought of it. Maybe you've kind of just blindly put your faith into other things or certain things. But I want you to really sit down and ask yourself today, what is truth? What do I believe truth actually is? Am I in control of truth? Is truth up to me? Or does God give us truth? Is he the author and creator of truth? And if he is, if you believe that he is, then follow truth. Follow God, follow the Bible, follow the wisdom that it gives us. Don't follow these false truths or lies of this world, of Satan. And maybe just as importantly as that, go out and tell our young people what that truth is. And here, maybe even more importantly than telling them that, is live it. Live out the truth and let them see you living it out. There's one other stat that I left out on purpose earlier, and I want to share it with you now. Well, actually, it's not really a stat. It's more just, here's one of the other reasons why youth are leaving the church, and this is one of the biggest ones. And what is it? It is hypocrisy in the church. It is people saying one thing and living out another. So what are you going to do? How are you going to live your life? You see, we tend to blame students and youth a lot for all the things going on. But the reality is they're learning all of that from you. I hope you wore your steel-toed boots today. Adam, I know you got some, buddy. The reality is our youth, this next generation, is a reflection of us. They're seeing how we're living here in the church. They may see us on a Sunday morning, lifting our hands, praising God, saying all the right things, having the Christianese lingo, right? But then they go out and they see us through the week and they say, well, they're living different than what they were talking about. So maybe church isn't really real. It's just a thing you do on Sunday. Check off that I went to church box. So how are you living today? How are you showing our youth how to live? So you see, the nature of truth tells us that there can only be one truth, okay? There is truth, and then there is not truth. There's truth, and then there is a lie. And maybe you're like, well, but check this out. And this is kind of weird to think about. But if you say that there is no truth, then how can you say that statement is true? You ever thought about that? So that to say that there is no truth is actually a self-contradiction. Because what you're saying something is true, but you're also saying that there is no truth. So how can you say there is no truth if there really is truth? Yeah, that's weird. goes on in a circle in my mind. So therefore, if we say that, therefore, there must be a truth, right? An objective truth, something that is above ourselves, governing truth. And listen to this last verse. Okay, John 8 says this. To the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, if you hold on to my teaching, you are really my disciples. And catch what he says here. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you are following my teaching, you are really my disciples. And then you will know truth, and the truth will set you free. See, to believe in Jesus is not to deny science or to stop critically thinking for yourself. To believe in Jesus is to embrace truth. It is to embrace your true identity and who you are, to understand your purpose and meaning in life through Jesus, through the Bible, through his words. And just like Jesus said, the truth will set you free. That's what our kids need to know to get out of depression, to get out of anxiety, to get out of suicidal thoughts. They need to learn who Jesus is and the truth of this world. And guess what? They need to learn that from you, living it out. You know, as a parent, you always say you don't want your kids, when you say one thing but you do another. It's exactly the situation we're in. Are you saying one thing and doing another? So today, I have a little bit more, but today I just want to pause and pray for us and pray for our kids. Let's go and bow our heads, close our eyes. And today, like I said, these stats, just keep climbing as the years go on. More depression, more anxiety, more things like that. And you might think, well, there's just nothing I can do about it. But the reality is if we just would live for Jesus, if you would live for Jesus and actually show that in your life and not be afraid and hide it, I think we can change those stats and we can see those drop. So let's pray today. God, thank you just for showing us the truth of your word and who you are. God, and I pray that today we would understand that truth and choose to live it out. That we wouldn't be one of those stats of being a hypocrite in church and our young people seeing that and deciding that this Christianity thing just isn't real. But God, I pray we'd be the other stat where our young people are seeing that there is a difference in these church people, that there is a difference in this Christianity thing. And I want to be a part of that because I want to be a part of the truth. So today, God, would you help us all as we live out the truth of your word? I pray that you would help us to be disciples of you and to follow after you, that we would know the truth and that the truth would set us free today. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, today I wanted to end off on a high note. I didn't want to be a downer, but you guys probably bought some burritos on your way in. Thank you so much for doing that. So the reason why we do these burrito sales is we're going to camp here in about another month or two. The high school students are going in June, middle school students going in July. But I just wanted to give you a couple updates on what's going on. So far, without counting today, just the last 3 weeks, we've been doing this for 4 weeks total. Just in the last 3 weeks, you guys have helped us raise $4,000 for our kids to go to camp. That is awesome. Camp costs a little over $200 for these kids to go. A lot of the times they'll say that they can't go because of money. And so we wanted to make sure that there were no roadblocks for these kids to go to camp. And you guys have done an awesome job at that. Apparently you guys really like burritos. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, you guys are so generous. You give over and above, just the sales of those burritos. So we're so thankful for your guys' giving to go to that. But I just wanted to show you a brief video. We have a brief video here just on kind of what the camp experience is like. This is actually a video from last year when we went to Camp Como. So this is literally where we'll be going and some of the stuff we'll be doing. So go ahead and check this out.
I got a feeling it's going to get rowdy.
Yeah. Does that make you want to go to camp? Oh, it's such an awesome experience, and that's why, we want every kid that's able to go to be able to go, not let money be an issue, because some great things can happen at church camp. I know that's my story. A lot of where God directed me in my life was through camp. In fact, my wife, Rachel, she was saved at church camp. And that might happen to our students. If some of them aren't, it didn't show it in the video, but they have a little pond there where they do baptisms if any of the kids want to get baptized. They have altar calls there where, kids are just able to release all these anxieties that they've had, all these burdens that they've had, and that they can search for that truth to have that true freedom. So let's go and stand up today. We're going to end just with singing to God. And I don't know if there's any burritos left out there, but if there are, feel free to buy the rest of those things up. Thank you so much for supporting our youth. Again, I just want to thank you for that. But let's go ahead and kick it off. One last song here to end it.